Yeah, so for my documentary, I'm documenting myself. All the people who I thought about interviewing always it kind of flaked, but everything happens for a reason. And so I thought I would talk about myself and how growing up without a father has affected my life personally. First of all, I'm not even from California. I'm actually from Florida. My mother and my father split up shortly after I was born. And my mom, as a affect of that, she had to go back to work and work on another degree so she can support myself and her as well. So growing up, I was always kind of alone. My grandma used to babysit me all the time, but she worked as well. She was a school bus driver. So I watched anime all day, and that's pretty much what raised me, honestly. I was always bounced around between my grandmother and my aunt, but I've always felt really lonely growing up, and that was something that I've never understood up until I've turned about, I'll be 19 by the time you guys are seeing this tomorrow. So I've always felt like not worthy of not love in particular, but of care, if that makes sense. Not to get too deep on you guys. So around third grade, my mother and I moved out to California. She got a job offer, and it was paying her much more handsomely than the job that she was currently at. But what my mom didn't understand was California tax is also high cost of living in California. So we moved out here, just me and her. Fourth grade. It was a very rough time for me. Fourth grade till about my senior year in high school was very rough for me. I was always a super awkward kid. Didn't really know how to interact with other kids my age. Didn't really have a lot of friends. Still don't, but that's okay. The smaller the circle, the tighter it is. So all of my really childhood up until I turned 18, it was me trying to find a place where I felt I fit in. And I've always had the problem of trying to find myself and find my worth inside of other people. And that, if you know, is never a good thing. And there came a point where I was going through my little rebellious phase. My junior year in high school, felt like the world owed me something, like I said, and I was taking all of my anger and aggression out on the people who cared for me. So my mother, she was a brunt of all this because it's just me and her, our little black cat. So every time I came home, I was constantly just being, for lack of a better term, a douchebag. And so one night I was going through my little tantrum, throwing my little fit, and my mom started crying, and my mom never cries. So I was like, whoa. So she tells me the story about how her and my father had got into an argument. Long story short, the cops were called, CPS was called, and they were about to take me away and put me into the foster system, is what she told me. And so my mom begged one of the cops to call my grandmother. So my grandmother, she came down, she picked me up, and so my mother told me that the look that my grandmother gave her when my mom was detained, because my mom had been detained, she was inside the cop car, and so my mother said the way that my grandmother looked at her, just with all this disappointment, she said she's never felt so empty in her life, and she told me that it was killing her because I'm acting just like my father. From that moment on, something switched in me, and life is such a blessing. Every day is a blessing. You are loved, you are worth it, and no matter how bad it gets, it can always get better. So always have faith, always put your best foot forward, and always be thankful that you are alive and living.